Organization development in non-industrial settings, healthcare, school systems, the public sectors, and family-owned businesses by Thomas G. Cummings and Christopher G. Worley. Organization development may be practiced in various types of organization in both the private and the public sectors. In recent years, we have also seen growing applications of OD in service industries as this entire sector continues to grow. Historically, most published material on OD has focused on applications in industrial and manufacturing organizations. There is some evidence that the traditional applications of OD may need to be modified if they are to extend beyond the narrow industrial model. However, it is likely true that applications of OD need to be modified in order to be extended into any new industry or unique organizational setting in or situation. This chapter presents broad applications of OD in non-industrial settings. In previous editions of this book, a person with knowledge and experience in OD in particular kind of organization was asked to contribute a section for this chapter. Healthcare is a dynamic and complex industry experiencing significant growth and change. In 2006, healthcare expenditures accounted for 16% of GDP in the United States as compared to about 9% of GDP in other organizations for economic development. In addition to having one of the highest percentages of GDP, the US annual rate of increase is almost double that of most developed nations. The healthcare industry represents a challenging context in which to practice OD. For example, compared to other industries such as software development, manufacturing, or retail, healthcare differs along several dimensions. Though it is beginning to change, consumers are often insulated from the economic consequences of their major healthcare decisions, including lifestyle choices, health habits, which hospital to go to, and where to get outpatient services. The key providers of care are not all connected through an employment agreement. The hospital or any other setting where care is delivered does not typically employ the physician. Hospitals, a key component of the healthcare system, are primarily not-for-profit and face several challenges related to their ability to create sustainable revenue to support operations. In addition, the law requires hospitals to care for all patients regardless of their ability to pay, prompting the need to grow revenue in other areas. Hospitals are subject to fines if they do not serve these patients, and they are paid as a set fee regardless of the cost incurred in treating the patients. Moreover, demand often outstrips facility capacity in many geographical areas and medical specialties. In many states, capital expenditures are often regulated by certificate of need. So even if the organization has the capital, additional capacity cannot be provided easily or quickly. Trends in healthcare. Healthcare practitioners and leaders acknowledge several important trends. The trends include the erosion of comprehensive health insurance and access to care, movement toward electronic medical record, the stabilization of physician-hospital relationships, a growing reliance on philanthropy, employer support of consumer-directed healthcare, the loss of baby boomer caregivers and managers, increased need to manage new clinical technology and quality as a strategic and regulatory imperative. Many of these trends affect not only the healthcare industry but also society as a whole. Erosion of comprehensive health insurance and access to care. The United States is the only major industrialized country without universal health care. Despite its wealth and commitment of 16% of the gross domestic product to the healthcare, twice their capital spending of the typical industrialized nation, almost 47 million Americans do not have health insurance coverage. Moving toward the electronic medical record. Healthcare providers are challenged to continuously improve the productivity of their process and practices, even as they are required to spend more time documenting and reporting on the care they deliver. The stabilization of physician-hospital relationships. Changes in the healthcare industry, such as lower reimbursements and newer, less invasive technologies, are causing a significant amount of anxiety among physicians and healthcare leaders because these changes affect where and how physicians deliver services. A growing reliance on philanthropy. Healthcare philanthropy is undergoing significant change as the healthcare field faces two defining challenges: the increasing reliance of hospital on philanthropy to address capital shortfalls, and the heightened scrutiny increasingly depending on philanthropy to address declining operation margins, needed capital improvements, and the lack of understanding among local communities, the press, and politicians. Employer support of consumer-directed healthcare. Employers increasingly believe that new health plans, such as consumer-directed health plans that encourage preventive care and require employees to share the cost of their health decisions, can be an antidote to consumers with unlimited wants, including those who seek medical solutions to poor lifestyle choices. The loss of baby boomer caregivers and managers. Despite the wide prevalence of obesity, baby boomers as a generation are healthier than their parents or grandparents. They are likely to continue or even accelerate the 25-year long trends of declining morbidity among people over 65, which Kenneth Manton and others have documented. Increased need to manage new clinical technology. The introduction and use of new technology has accounted for 20 to 40% of the annual rise in U.S. healthcare spending since 1960. Clinical technology is commonly cited as the major drivers of rising expenditures worldwide. Quality as strategic and regulatory imperative. Recent reports on the state of the healthcare system suggest that over the last 5 years, despite the technological imperative, we have gained very little in the areas of quality and safety. Far too often, patients are harmed by negligent care and avoidable medical errors. Opportunities for organization development practice. Despite, or some might say because of, the significant negative and difficult trends facing the industry, OD practitioners can positively influence the process and outcomes of change in the healthcare of environment. The opportunities include creating effective cultures, supporting and developing present and future leaders, creating systems and services that cost effectively differentiate and meet needs, redesigning jobs and processes to maximize effective use of expertise, and restoring trust in and among stakeholders. Creating effective cultures. The past decades focused on mergers and alliance still requires some cultural integration, human system development, and work process improvement. However, the focus now needs to shift to creating effective cultures that attract and retain key stakeholders, engage employees, and promote patient safety. High quality, cost effective human resource systems. OD practitioners can contribute to the creation of systems and services that strengthen healthcare employers to attract and retain qualified workers. Effective job and work designs. According to a national survey, the number one concerns of nurses is their increased daily workload. Another survey on worker retentions showed that the primary reason why people live in the inability to use their skills and abilities. Job redesign may be needed to tailor jobs for an aging workforce and one with multiple work or family demands. Restoring trust in and among stakeholders. Trust has a significant impact on workplace relationships and performance. Healthy relationships need trust, and the stronger the level of trust, the stronger the relationship. Trust is needed for constructive relationships among stakeholders and to restore public confidence in healthcare organizations. Success principles for OD in healthcare. A set of principles and beliefs that describe effective OD interventions and OD practitioners in healthcare are posed as future challenges to the practice and practitioners of OD in healthcare. Demonstrate the relevance of the subject to strategic performance. A central debate in OD is whether it should be focused only on quality of work life issues or if performance and systems improvement issues should be of equal importance. The challenge of keeping up with demand while addressing workforce shortage and tenuous financial conditions strongly suggests that healthcare leaders and clinical would label in any organizational intervention that is not linked to strategy performance as irrelevant. Demonstrate the importance of depth for sustainability. Healthcare's life and death focus, coupled with the crisis of insufficient capacity to care for the increased patient demand, could prompt interest quick fixes or reactions rather than more lasting systemic and holistic solutions. OD practitioners must be able to make a compelling case for attention to deeper systemic issues for sustainable change, such as cultures built on trust and learning, rather than shorter term feel good training and development. Demonstrate competence. The changes taking place within healthcare will require constant re-evaluation and redefinition of competencies in a particular field or discipline. This will be true for medical professionals and healthcare managers as for OD practitioners. Facilitate integration among and between the diverse part of the system. A universal theme of the practice of OD in healthcare today is integration among traditional and non-traditional stakeholders group. For example, medical staff, physicians' offices, community agencies, and insurance companies are typically untouched by OD processes. Now, in addition to new opportunities for improving the health and performance within each of those groups, significant efforts are necessary to facilitate their integration to improve healthcare delivery and effective deploy limited resources. Conclusions. The healthcare industry offers unprecedented challenges and opportunities. OD practitioners can influence positive growth and development by linking their efforts to the strategies of the organizations, demonstrating competence and integrity, and being able to facilitate integration of people and processes across traditional departmental and organizational boundaries. Organization development in school systems. The historical search for meaning in U.S. education has shifted among different purposes and values, including academic discipline, social efficiency, individual development, vocational competence, freedom, equality, and community. Freeman Butts described these purposes as intersecting, competing, overlapping, fuzzy around the edges if not in the center. We cannot escape them by whatever new or innovative terms we may dream up. We must grapple with them, try to sort them out, see what they mean for our time, and try to decide which deserve priority in the coming years. Education, Industrial Age Roots. Guided by 19th century industrial practices, traditional models of education were designed to generate a standardized product, labor for the ever-expanding workplace. The same assumptions that guided the operation of U.S. factories were applied to schools: centralization, standardization, hierarchical top-down management, a rigid sense of time, and accountability based on adherence to the system. The 19th century has come and gone. The industrial age has given way to the information age. Purposes for schooling have shifted and the factory model has become invalid. Yet, it still exists. Some would say it still prevails. Many schools today in the United States look very similar to schools of the late 19th century. Factory model practices have become deeply entrenched and incredibly resistant to large-scale change effort. Changing conditions cause stress. A variety of changes, including failed and misguided reform efforts, have caused people to question the traditional model of education. First, historic conditions that once supported the factory model no longer exist and signs of breakdown in the assembly line schools concept are evident. Second, changes in technology and the traditional family structure have interacted to alter the parent-teacher relationship and the availability of knowledge. The traditional family structure, one parent working and one parent staying home, has been replaced by that with two working parents or single parents. Third, the weakening of the traditional educational system is manifested in discontentment on the part of students, administrators, and parents and has resulted in unprecedented competition. Strong political, economic, and religious forces have given rise to a plethora of schools of choices, each with their unique ideology, curriculum, and practices. Fourth, globalization has significantly influenced employer expectations for workers. Well-developed listening and communication skills, collaborative learning capabilities, critical thinking, creative production, and systems thinking are viewed as essential for the workplace, as are higher levels of literacy and the ability to adapt to rapid change. Fifth, today's students are more diverse ethnically, culturally, and linguistically than ever before. Their needs and interests require more culturally responsive practices that require school to examine their understanding of first and second language acquisition and the relationship among language, culture, identity, school performance, community relations, and outreach, and to challenge biased racist assumptions about learners that are not European in background. Finally, the economic divide between students with resources and those without is widening. Greater pressure is being placed on schools to level the playing field and to better address the needs of students that have experienced circumstantial or generational poverty. Additionally, a significant digital divide has also grown between students with access to technology and those without. Disappointing reform efforts. These trends, many of which started years ago, influenced the instigation of two large-scale school reform efforts over the past 30 years: the Excellence Movement and the Restructuring Movement. The Excellence Movement was a response to the Assessment of Education report, a national risk by the National Commission of Excellence in Education in April 1983. The Commission linked concerns over national security to substandard education in American public schools and generated considerable debate. In response to the report, hundreds of state and national task forces sprang into action to investigate the condition of U.S. public education. A new metaphor for schools. In response to the changing times, a new metaphor for schooling has emerged. Learning communities are replacing the old model of schools as knowledge factories or organizations. Both the organization and the community metaphor ring true for certain aspects of how schools function, but it makes a world of difference which of the two provides the overarching frame, rather than emphasizing externally imposed rules, regulations, monitoring, supervision, and evaluation systems to maintain control over teachers. The new metaphor implies a very different construct. Learning communities are built around relationships and shared ideas. In 2000, the Interstate School Leaders Licensure Consortium developed six standards for leaders and guiding school effectiveness. 1. Facilitating the development, articulation, implementation, and stewardship of a vision of learning that is shared and supported by the school community. Advocating nurturing and sustaining a school culture and instructional program conducive to student learning and staff professional growth. 3. Ensuring management of the organization's operations and resources of a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment. Number 4. Collaborating with families and community members, responding to diverse community interests and needs, and mobilizing community resources. Number 5. Acting with integrity, fairness, and in an ethical manner. And number 6. Understanding, responding to, and influencing the larger political, social, economic, legal, and cultural context. In 2004, Alan Blankenstein and associates from the Hope, Harnessing Optimism and Potential Through Education Foundation synthesized the research from the above sources: research on effective schools, the U.S. Department criteria for excellent schools, and their own practice in the field, and distilled the essence of learning communities into six principles. Principle 1. Common mission, vision, values, and goals. Principle 2. Ensuring achievement for all students, creating systems for prevention and intervention. Principle 3. Collaborative teaming focused on teaching and learning. Principle 4. Using data to guide decision making and continuous improvement. Principle 5. Gaining active engagement from family and community. Principle 6. Building sustainable leadership and capacity. Future opportunities for OD practice. Schools may call themselves learning communities, but really few are in practice. This is not to say that many schools are not taking steps in the right direction. School transformation is a difficult and evolving process. Becoming an authentic learner-centered community requires deep changes in the theory and culture of traditional schools, embracing the concept of school as a center of inquiry in which children and adults construct their own understandings of the world in which they live calls for a significant shift in mindscape. OD practices can inspire the most promising school improvement practices, those that place emphasis on their teacher, the classroom, and the patterns of interaction that exists among teachers and between administrators in the school. Building trust, setting strategy, learning design, collaboration, action research, community engagement, and leadership. Technology's unique role in school OD. The explosion of communication technology at the end of the 20th century has forced a rethinking of teaching and student competencies. In 2003, the Partnership for 21st Century Skills, in collaboration with business leaders, proposed a new set of competencies necessary for the success of students. These competencies reflect the complexities of today's workplace and include global awareness, creative and innovation skills, media literacy, and leadership responsibility. For example, collaborative virtual space and mobile technologies have opened a rich alternate channel for innovative educators to work with students online. Emailed homework, discussion topics in news groups, dialogue using chat or IM, posting group work or blogs, and sharing video in real time are a few examples. Homeschooling is another fast-growing, non-traditional education structure that is greatly facilitated by new technology. Technology's unique role in school OD. Online learning communities. These are designed to allow users with common interests to form their own virtual space for sharing documents, comments, and contract information. Less formally structured than school settings and independent of geography, they provide powerful virtual collaborations and learning. Media-based learning. This is a whole industry of content providers that has grown to support organizations with common content, such as ethics training. Professional organizations also sponsor content creation and delivery through focused learning modules. Nearly all have recently added collaboration tools to the package learning to better reinforce learning. Gaming environments. They represent another transformation-based technology. The success of video games and the complex yet effortless learning associated with them suggest yet another powerful learning strategy apart from schools. Conclusions. The purpose and best practices of education continue to be complex and hotly debated. Historically, the development of traditional education organizations has shifted among a variety of values and purposes largely unaided by OD principles. More recently, the focus has been academics and personal and social development. The current need for connected, technology-savvy workers with 21st century skills and more attention to OD practices has given rise to a new strategy. For professional learning communities, independent learning communities have already been growing around online gaming and other online communities. Organization development in the public sector. Public sector organizations, such as federal, state, and local government, operate in a complex environment of competing political, social, and economic forces. Calls for the government to become more citizen-focused and to operate in a more business-like manner are common. Legislation and programs aimed at improving government accountability, quality, and effectiveness are being introduced and adopted at all levels of government. For example, the National Partnership for Reinventing Government, formerly the National Performance Review 1993, initiative created by former President Bill Clinton and run by former Vice President Al Gore, called for national agencies to transform themselves into more effective, high-quality, customer-focused service providers. It outlined recommendations for improvement that have resulted in a $108 billion saving for the period of 1995 to 1999 at the state level initiative to curb Comparing public and private sector organizations. Public and private sector organizations differ along four key dimensions: value and structure, the multiplicity of decision makers, stakeholder diversity and access, and the extent of intergovernmental relationships. Each of these differences is discussed along with an implication for audit practice. This discussion draws on the writing and research of Bob Golembiewski, John Bryson, H. George Frederickson, and John Nalbandian. Values and structures. Public and private sector organizations differ in important way of respect to their values and structures. In private sector companies, the key values are profitability and the creation of competitive advantage. The board of directors who represent the stakeholders, the shareholders, and the management team who are tasked with implementing a strategy share their values. Although public sector organizations share a similar structure arrangement of representation and implementation, there are crucial differences in purpose and role that hold important implications for audit practice. Multiplicity of decision makers. The public sector operates in an environment of largely unlimited access to multiple authoritative decision makers, a phenomenon designed to ensure that public business gets looked at from a variety of perspectives. The public expect full and legitimate access to all government decision makers at every level. As a result, access to the decision-making process is broader, and accountability is more dispersed than at private sector organizations, where such access is uncommon, and responsibility is more clear-cut. Further, government fragmentation complicates the public sector decision-making process, where it is common for different public agencies to be responsible for different steps in governmental processes. Such as fragmentation often makes it confusing and difficult for citizens, clients, customers, and even public officials and staff to understand who is responsible for what decision is accountable for what product. Stakeholders access. A stakeholder is any group or individual who is affected by or who can affect the policies and operations of the public sector organization. Citizens, customers, political parties, corporations, employees, other governments, interest groups, critics, and so forth. In contrast to private industry, the public sector conducts business in open public meetings and involve a greater variety of individuals and groups with different and often mutually exclusive sets of interests, reward structures, and values. Intergovernmental relations. Governments are designed to focus both functions and power, and paradoxically, to disperse power and functions so that no one government or agency is all powerful. As a result, government comprises a lattice work of independent agencies or departments providing different public services to the same citizens and customers. The result is an intergovernmental relations environment where federal, state, and local governments share power, responsibility, and in some cases resources. These intergovernmental relationships raise several considerations for public sector's audit applications. Recent research and innovations in public sector's organizational development. The comparisons between the public and the private sectors described above suggest that OD has a role in government and not for-profit organizations. OD practitioners need to appreciate the inherent differences and understand that OD applications in the public sectors are conducted in a complex political and organizational environment. Moreover, the unique features of public organizations, the values and structures, the multiplicity of decision makers, stakeholders, diversity, and the intergovernmental relations environment make OD application challenging but not impossible. Conclusions: OD application have proven to be effective in public sector's organizations. Faced with many of the same pressures as private industry and some that are unique to government, public organizations will continue to use audio application and interventions to transform themselves into citizen and customer-driven, high-performance, results-oriented organizations. But to be customer-driven and high-performance, results-oriented organizations, but to be effective practitioners, help, or government must appreciate the differences incumbent in public sector values and organization structure, the differences in public and private organizations, and the mindset of elected officials and government workers. Audit practitioners need to understand public sector organizations and tailor interventions to fit highly diverse, politicized situations where elected officials and bureaucrats struggle with moving toward a new emphasis on continuous improvement, teamwork, customer focus, employee development, and learning. Although public sector audit is difficult and challenging, the successes cited in this chapter illustrate that audit is an invaluable tool in helping public sector organizations provide top quality services. Organiz- Organization development in family-owned businesses. Family businesses such as Levi Strauss, Cargill, and Kikkoman, founded in 1630, are the most common and least understood types of business organizations, often thought of as mom and pop operations. More than one-third of the Fortune 500 companies are owned or controlled by family members. Moreover, family businesses comprise the single largest demographic segment, between 65 and 80% of all worldwide businesses, and they generate half of the US domestic product and employ 50% of the workforce. One recent study showed that one-third of S&P 500 firms are family-controlled and they outperform the publicly controlled companies. Family business system. The conventional wisdom of family business around the world is often summarized as wealth doesn't go beyond the third generation. This can be demonstrated with research that shows fewer than one-third of family businesses are able to make the transition of ownership into the second generation, and only 12% of all family businesses survive into the third generation of ownership. While some have pointed to these statistics as proof of the dangers of family business, they need to be understood in the broader context of business in general. A family business system model is shown in Figure 24.1 that defines the three basic components of family business organization. The family business system is composed of three different subsystems: the business, the owners, and the family. For each subsystem, there is an implicit understanding of the goals. And in family firm best practices, there is an explicit plan that describes how the objectives will be achieved with a governance structure that represents the people in that system. Three systems in family business: business, ownership, and family systems. The business system may consist of family and non-family managers, the strategic business plan, and a governance structure including a board of directors and sometimes a non-family advisory board. The strategic plan should outline the business goals, objectives, strategies, and organization design. The ownership system consists of business owners, a shareholder agreement, and a governance structure that may be represented in a formal shareholder meeting. The shareholder agreement should outline the owner's business goals and objectives, including risk tolerance, expected return of investment, liquidity goals, and a buy-sell mechanism. The family system may consist of all family members, including those who have married into the family. Their enterprise plan and often a governance structure frequently referred to as the family council. The family enterprise plan outlines the family philosophy, goals, and objectives for the business as well as other related family functions, such as community service, family gatherings, and philanthropy. Family business development stages. The most common definition of a family business is an organization where ownership and/or management control rest with a family. This definition covers a wide range from small owner-management businesses to Ford Motor Company, where the Ford family owns a minority of the stock but retains voting control through a complex system of voting shares. Some families retain 100% of their ownership while employing professional management to run their business. A parallel planning process. When a family owns a valuable asset, such as a business, the relationships can become much more complex. Deliberate planning is required to preserve the national bond that exists in families and to make it possible for them to develop a shared vision for their mutual enterprise. Carlock and Ward describe a parallel planning process where viable business strategy is still the outcome, but it is an outcome shaped by the concerns of the family. Figure 24.2 illustrates the parallel processes leading to the simultaneous development of a family enterprise plan and a business strategy plan. Values. At the center of the family business system model is a set of core values held by the family. The research shows that family members internalize family values such as long-term reciprocity, filial obligation, and hard work for for one's family. They represent a key integration point for aligning the three subsystems listed above. However, values also best illustrate the difference between family and non-family firms. Family and business system values are shown in Table 24.2. Based upon the values a family employs in making decisions about the business and the family, they can be classified as either family first or business first. A family first value system will place family above the business and may sub-optimize business opportunity to benefit the family. A business first value system is based upon the belief that a well-managed business will produce the most benefit for the family now and in the future. The family first approach is dominated by values of security and equality. There is a strong inward focus on the family's dynamics, strong goals of keeping the system in equilibrium, even if it is an unhealthy equilibrium, and strong interest in maintaining unity and support. On the other hand, the business first value system is interested in risk and equitability in the organization. Change, competition, result, transparency, and an outward orientation characterize business system values. Ideally, decisions are made rationally and objectively, and the system is composed of an often changing mix of people who are hired into the organization. Moreover, families often structure their business relationships in ways that fill a void in their family relationship outside of the business. Audit practitioners often have to consider such issues as follows. Should the chronic underperforming son or daughter be retained in their business role and for how long? How much conflict should the family and non-family business members have to endure between two siblings in rivalry? When the business is suffering, will the family members' significantly higher compensation be addressed? In sum, the family business system model provides an effective diagnostic tool and helps to explain some of the reasons why OD is in family firms can be difficult. Critical issues in family business. The interaction of the family ownership and business subsystems, particularly at generational transition points, can be problematic. Where this system overlap, as family members come together as owners, both inside and outside of the business, there are potential interface issues, potential conflicts, and always dilemmas to be faced. The change from an owner-managed business to a small group of sibling owners to a larger group of cousins can challenge the basic assumptions that have been the basis of trust and unity in decision making. It is instructive to consider each of these major inflection points from the perspective of three states of change. The present or current state. Identify the key elements of the organization and family that will be impacted by the change. The transition state. Make the decision about where to begin the change process in each subsystem, from the present state to the desired state. The future state. A specific statement of the goal of the change process within a mid-range horizon of 1 to 3 years. Some of the critical change triggers common to family business as they grow and develop are the following. Entering or leaving the business as a family member. Family members often report choosing the family business as a place to work with comments like, "It just happened," or "I fell into it." Family members are convenient workforce and may be the only option in the startup phase of the founding generation, but business that successfully integrate family members over the long run do not base selection practices only on genetics. Conflicts and rivalry in the business. Conflicts and rivalries are common in the family firms and are often the result of values dilemmas. If a family is relationship based and business is result based, how is the family member to be evaluated? If equality is valued in the family system, how do you choose a business successor? Family member compensation, roles and responsibilities, authority, and opportunity are some of the critical issues that ignite conflict between family members. The family system is an emotional one, and when placed together in a business setting, family members often revert back to the family roles they played growing up. Ownership, transfer, and estate planning. In addition to distinguishing between family and business roles, members of the family system may have a third role to play, that of owner or shareholder. Owner's rights and responsibilities are different from family and business ones. Ownership rights typically include electing directors, creating bylaws, voting on specified major business decisions, and realizing a fair return on investment. The typical responsibilities include making informed decisions, creating and keeping agreements, respecting limits of authority, and developing business competencies to adequately fulfill their role as a shareholder. Selecting a new leader. The vast majority of family firms, 85% according to one survey, choose successors that are family members. In addition, 39% of family firms will change leadership within the next 5 years, and of those 42% have not chosen a successor. Many families avoid the topic altogether due to emotional intensity. Business growth and family wealth. As noted earlier, most family businesses struggle to transition in the generations. Absence of successors, family assets to concentrated in the business, family conflict, passive versus active owners, empire building, lack of professional management, or the absence of a shared vision and sustainable business model can all contribute to a family business demise. When the business fails, there is a little chance for the family and family's wealth to grow. OD interventions in family business system. For a consultant working with family businesses, complexity is the norm, a result of the interconnectedness of the family, business, and shareholder systems. Necessarily addressing the entire family business system is a key difference from the work of a non-family business practitioners. If significant conflict exists in the family, an advisor with expertise and qualification in individual and family therapy may be a valuable asset to the team. Entering and contracting. The special entry and contracting issues involved in family business include the need to quickly create a safe emotional environment, asking the sensitive questions related to the family systems early in the engagement, getting permission to recontract as issues emerge, getting permission to work with other family members, and being clear about the requirements of collaboration. Unlike non-family firms, the client in a family business is the entire family business system. Diagnosing the organization. Diagnosing the family-run organization requires the particular tasks and skills necessary to understand the family system in addition to the business system. Presenting issues and problems that appear to be business-related often require careful probing and unbundling to get an accurate picture of what is happening. Diagnosing the organization. The individual confidential interview is perhaps the most powerful tool for gathering data and intervening in the system. It's critical to assess not only the present business issues, but those that are in the family system and the shareholder arena, as well as determining what boundaries exist between the subsystems, including how communications flow. Diagnosing the organization. Key questions for understanding the family business system include the following. Describe what long-term personal success means to you and your own personal vision of the future. What is most important to your family? Tell me about the best time that you have had with the family. Looking at the entire experience, recall a time when you felt most alive, most involved, most excited. What made it great experience? Describe the event in detail. Des- Describe what business success for your company means to you. For example, what would your company look like if it were operating at its very best? What is getting in the way of the success? What is your role? As a shareholder in this business, what do you want most from your investment? How much agreement exists between the family, the business leaders, and the shareholders about the vision, values, policies, goals, and strategy for the family business? Feedback and planning. Providing feedback to the family business members often include an 1 to 2 day off-site session to review a discussion guide that summarizes key issues, priorities, and recommendations. This session should be the second time the group has come together and can be viewed as an opportunity to facilitate the practices of good communications, group decision making, and conflict resolution. Table 24.3 identifies the most common interventions in a family business system today. Strategic. Strategic interventions include mission and vision development, capability identification, and a goal setting are an appropriate place to begin work with a family business system as many family business issues stem from a lack of alignment around shared vision and values. Systems. System interventions include traditional ODIP approaches in the business, such as human resource policies and procedures, technical operations and information, management systems, and organization culture. Many family firms can benefit from formalizing their business systems, including performance management, succession planning, leadership development, rewards, core process improvement, information technology implementation, and recruiting. Structure. Governance structure are necessary for all three subsystems so that effective communication and coordination can occur among these complex systems. The business system benefits from a professional management team led by a qualified CAO who reports to a board of advisors or board of directors. Process. Process interventions can be very effective with family firms. This is especially true if the source of resolution of the client problem is unknown and the nature of the problem as is such that the client would benefit from involvement in its diagnosis. Implementing and evaluating change. There are various levels of consultant involved in implementation. It is important to understand where involvement will support intervention success, where organization member can be coached, and where members can take primary responsibility for implementation. High involvement is almost always needed in the first stages of implementation, where activities typically include establishing goals and milestones, creating a shared vision, establishing boundaries for family and business roles, and facilitating productive communications. Summary. Traditionally, the published material in organization development has focused on application in industrial organizations. This chapter presented broad applications of OD in non-industrial organizations such as healthcare, schools, government agencies, and family firms. The results of these change programs due to date suggest that OD is not only being applied successfully but also needs a greater range of customized diagnostic methods and interventions. And it must be clear about the values in use when it is applied to non-industrial settings.